Welcome to Hancock's VMware Half Hour. And welcome back to another Hancock's VMware Half Hour. Okay, so if you've been following the recent videos, we've been doing an awful lot of partition mangling. We've had a little look at specifically really keeping the recovery partition or not keeping the recovery partition, whichever video that you've actually watched. We've looked at 3 third-party applications. We looked at gpart live CD-ROM. We've looked at AOMEI Partition Assistant. We've looked at Ease US Partition Manager for Windows, I think it's called. And I think we sort of kind of come to the conclusion, really, that desktop operating systems like Windows 10 and Windows 11, you can use those third-party tools, AOMEI Partition Assistant and Ease US, to manipulate partitions on a desktop operating system like Windows 10 and Windows 11. You can't use them on Windows Server. The freeware utilities won't function, or they'll function, but they'll then nag you, basically wanting you to pay an upgrade to server editions for you to do your manipulations there. We actually demonstrated that we could do those manipulations using a third-party open source tool called gpart live CD-ROM. We demonstrated that. And we also basically showed you the old-fashioned manual way by using diskpart. But I did say that I was going to come back and I was going to look at a really, really old friend. And that was VMware vCenter Converter, which looks a little bit like this. I'll just zoom in so you can see a bit better. VMware vCenter Converter Standalone, for its official name on its birth certificate. I think a lot of us actually basically call it now VMware Converter, that can do lots of wondrous things. Originally, it was, I suppose, conceived, designed to convert physical to virtual machines, but it can convert a virtual to virtual machine. Still in use today, available from Broadcom free of charge. 6.6, I think, is the latest version. Let's just have a little look here. VMware vCenter Converter Standalone. You know, it's interesting that vCenter is actually in there, really, because it isn't really anything to do with VMware vCenter Server, to be honest with you. But once upon a time, it was actually a plugin that was in VMware vCenter Server. So before they spun it out as a standalone. So I think it's because somebody somewhere still wants to basically have that attachment to VMware vCenter Server. And this is when I think it was sort of kind of thrown out and became a standalone product, which we have today. So the latest is 6.6.0 build 2326534. And I say, and it's available as a freebie from Broadcom to this day. So hasn't had the branding yet. It still basically has the VMware branding, so it doesn't have the Broadcom VMware by Broadcom branding as of yet. Maybe we'll see that in the next version. But I did say that we were going to have a little look at our. We were going to go back and have a little look at our Windows 11 VM that we have, which, if you remember, had a 16 gig unallocated portion at the end of the disk. It has this annoying 604 megabyte healthy recovery partition, and then it has the C partition, which is the one really that we want to expand. We want to expand into that 16 gig unallocated. And I actually said to you that with VMware vCenter Converter, not only can we do partition manipulation, but we can also expand the disk at the same time. So what I'm going to do in this video, we're going to do both. I'm going to grow, let's have a little think, 16 gig plus 47 gig-ish is going to be about, so what's that, 66 gigs. So I'll tell you what we'll do in this video. We'll create a new 90 gig virtual machine disk for operating system. And what we're going to do, VMware vCenter Converter will automatically grow the C partition to 90 gig. And in its manipulation, it will actually basically leave the healthy recovery partition at the end of the disk as well, in one pass, completely for free. We'll do this on Windows 11, and then we'll go back to our test part 1, which was our Windows Server 2025 server, and we'll do exactly the same thing there. Now, when we're doing a V to V conversion, and let's just turn back on our VMware vCenter Converter. So let's just drop that. So we'll go back to this point. So what we're going to do, we're going to click Convert Machine, and currently, if you look at the options here, we've got powered on and we've got powered off. Now, the recommended method to do any conversion really is with the virtual machine powered off. So the first thing I'm going to have to do is I'm going to go and have to power off my test part 2 virtual machine. So I'm going to do that. Tell you what I can do, as I've got an RDP connection to it, which you're seeing now here. What I'm going to do, I'm just going to power off, shut down, and I'm actually basically going to shut down that virtual machine. Now, there are a couple of best practices, really, when it actually basically comes to doing a V2V. And that's one, either actually install VMware vCenter Converter actually basically on the machine to start with. So we would actually basically install VMware vCenter Converter on our Windows 11 machine. Or if it's already a virtual machine on VMware infrastructure, and that could be ESXi as well. So we can actually basically use VMware vCenter Converter, or VMware Converter we'll call it. We can use that to connect directly to an ESXi machine, or we can connect it direct to vCenter server that's managing them ESXi hosts. And if you've actually got ESXi hosts that are being managed by a VMware vCenter server, you will find today that if you try to connect to an ESXi host that's being managed by a VMware vCenter server using VMware Converter, it will actually basically turn around and tell you that you need to actually connect to VMware vCenter server. It's one of the latest changes in VMware Converter. So I'm going to connect to our VMware vCenter server, which is called vcenter.cyrus-consultants.co.uk, and I'm going to connect to it with an administrative account. I'm just happening to use the SSO account, the administrator at vSphere local, but you can use an admin account or an account which actually basically has read access to the virtual machine. So I'm going to basically click next. I'm now going to look at I'm going to leave it at hosts and clusters, and I'm going to search for the name test.part. So there we go. There's our virtual machine test-part 2 powered off. So I'm going to highlight that and I'm going to click next. Now it's going to sit there and it's going to retrieve the source machine information. It's going to pass that source machine information to work out what type of machine it is. And by that, basically, I mean that it's going to look at things like CPU, it's going to look at memory, obviously going to look at network adapters, and it's actually going to look at its virtual disk as well. Now, the process of a V2V, virtual to virtual conversion, is exactly that. It's going to convert our existing virtual machine to a new virtual machine. There is a conversion in place, so the two are not going to be identical. And of course, the original machine is going to be left in place and untouched. So no changes are going to be made to the original machine. And you'll end up basically with a converted, we'll say clone, but it's not really a clone because it's a conversion. So the two are different. So it's going to have the same data. It's going to have the same information. It's going to have a different MAC address because it's actually gone through a conversion process. So I could, if I wanted to, I could actually basically convert this to a VMware workstation or an other virtual machine. But I actually basically want to copy it back to our infrastructure. So again, this is our destination. So again, VMware vSphere administrator at VMware vSphere local, followed by the password. Now you can use this process. You know, I know organizations that have been using VMware Converter as a backup tool, and it often has been referred to as poor man's backup. It's also a mechanism if you get into a snapshot mess. If you actually install VMware Converter into the operating system on the machine that you've got a problem with a snapshot, then you can basically create a V2V, and the destination, the new virtual machine that you create, is not going to have any snapshots. And exactly the same, this machine does actually basically have a snapshot, but when we actually do the conversion of it, the resulting machine is not going to have a snapshot attached. So it is a mechanism, a get out of jail card, if you like, to get you out of snapshot hell. So I'm going to click next. So I'm now going to specify a virtual machine name. I'm going to call that test part 3, followed by next. I'm going to now select a particular host. So I'm going to select ESXi 006 for it. I'm going to specify the data store, which is our vSAN data store. I'm going to select version 19. You may actually find you've got version 20 or version 21 in there, depending on what version of ESXi you've got available. And I'm going to click next. Okay, so now we have to pay attention really to what changes we actually basically want to make to the operating system. Now, all I want to do here really is I just want to change the size of the disk. I don't want to change any of the vCPUs. I don't want to change the memory. I do want to change the NIC. I want to basically choose VM network. So I'm going to click next for that. But I actually basically want to be able to change the disk. So if I highlight the disk here, now if I just basically copy as is now, copy all disks and maintain the layout, all that's going to do is basically it's going to basically create virtual disk 1, size 64 gig and thick. So I want a thin disk because on vSAN we want thin disks. But what I also want to do, I want to select the volumes to copy, because if I choose select the volumes to copy advanced, then this actually now allows me basically to specify the parameters and specify the sizes of the partitions that I want. So I'm going to select advanced. I'm going to select the destination layout. This is the source volumes. So I'm going to select the destination layout. And for my virtual disk C, which says maintain the size at 47.29 gig, I want to basically type in a size in gigabytes. Now, the reason it says minimum size is 22, because there's currently 22 gig of data actually on the disk. So it can't be smaller than that. So you can actually go smaller here. You can reduce the size of this. So if you had over allocated your disk to 500 gig or a terabyte, like I mentioned previously, you can use VMware vCenter Converter to shrink the disk. And this is the only supported mechanism of shrinking a disk using VMware vCenter Converter. So we said at the beginning we wanted to grow our disk. We wanted to grow our disk to 90 gig. So I'm going to type in 90 there. So our virtual disk size is now going to be 90. Our C drive is going to be 90. So I'm going to follow by next. And I'm just going to have a little quick check to see that we've got everything right. I'm not going to do any more changes. The more changes I found that you make with VMware vCenter Converter, the more trouble that you're likely to have at the end of the process when it's actually doing the conversion, and it can fail. So test part 2, vCenter, administrator, local, no CPU throttling, no network throttling. Test part 3, version 19, Cyrus, no, 1 socket 2 cores, 4 gig, preserved NIC count, connected VM network. Yep, that looks good. So I'm going to click finish. Now, hopefully, fingers crossed, that's going to submit the job. That's going to start running. And usually, if we actually basically see that the job actually basically gets to about 3%, then you're out of the woods. Jobs can fail up till about 3% because of a misconfiguration issue. But if they get past 3%, then the next failure window that we're looking at really is between 96 and 100% because of a configuration issue. If you get a failure in between 3%, 4% and 96%, it's usually because it's actually basically had a read issue reading the virtual disk while it's actually copying. So all we've now really got to do is just wait for the conversion to complete. And it will sit there for a while, for a couple of minutes, thinking about what it's going to do, stating running, and then you will actually basically get a proper running time and an estimated time, which generally actually starts to decrease as the process actually basically kicks in. Gives you an indication of the speed of transfer. So with that, there's nothing more for me to do really than just wait for this to complete. So I'm going to bob off, my tea, and I'll speed this up in post. So I'll come back shortly. So I'll catch you later after I've had my nose bag. Bye bye. So our VMware conversion has only taken us 13 minutes. And if we actually basically look up here in the HTML client connected to a vCenter server, you can see that we have got a brand new sparkly converted machine, test-part 3. Like the conversion will create a different MAC address. If you wanted to keep the same MAC address, then you can go back to the old virtual machine and paste that MAC address to this MAC address. So because you've got a new MAC address, it will have a new IP address. So if we actually basically just connect to that RDP session, I'll just get rid of this good morning, and we have a little look at disk management, then hopefully we will see the changes that we wanted at the beginning of this video. And those were that I wanted to basically allocate an additional size of disk, virtual disk. I wanted to create it 90 gig basically. So that's completed successfully. We've got a 90 gig disk. We can see that here. The partition size has been expanded to 90 gig, and we've got the recovery partition at the end. So QED again, VMware vCenter Converter is a powerful piece of free software available from the Broadcom portal that again allows you to resize the disk and also increase and manipulate the partitions inside the operating system in one process without actually basically changing the original virtual machine. So we still have test part 2. So we still have test part 2 here, which is obviously turned off. So that's our original virtual machine, which of course has got the 64 gig hard disk. Now we've expanded it to 90 gig and it's powered on. So if after testing our new converted virtual machine, our test-part 2, test-part 3 rather, there was a fault with it, then we could always actually basically roll back to our original machine, which has been untouched. And you can actually basically see here, snapshot count 1, latest snapshot before partition manipulation, 33.79 gig, 19th of the 4th, 2025. And if I just switch to test part 3, it's test part 3, it's powered on, obviously, new IP address, no snapshots. As I sort of kind of mentioned before, if you get yourself into a snapshot hell and you cannot, for whatever reason, get rid of the snapshots and your virtual machine is still running on a snapshot, you can use VMware vCenter Converter basically to get yourself out of that mess as well. So that's it in this video. It was just a quick video that I wanted to do to show you that there are other tools available that can increase the size of the disk, increase the partition inside, which is often forgotten. A lot of people sort of kind of think that, you know, we increase the size of the disk in VMware vCenter Converter or connected directly to the ESXi host. And they forget that there's another piece to the puzzle that we need to do as well. We need to basically increase the size of the partition inside the OS as well as basically just changing that size of disk, the virtual disk. We've also basically got, if we want to increase the partitions inside, we've got to grow them using a piece of software as well. VMware vSphere ESXi is not going to do that for us. That's something that we're going to have to do. So next video, we're going to have a little look at doing exactly the same thing, but using a server operating system. We're going to go back to our friend, Server 2025, and that's on a standalone ESXi host. So we're going to do exactly the same thing on a standalone ESXi host to show you that VMware Converter runs on a standalone host, and it also runs on the 2025 product as well. Or we can convert that using the 2025 product as well. So if you've enjoyed this video, then please give it a thumbs up and a like. And don't forget to subscribe. If you don't like this video, then don't like it. And tell me why in the description. Anyway, my name is Andrew Hancock at Hancock's VMware Half Hour. And I'll see you again in the next video. So from me, goodbye now.